Storm clouds. This past Saturday, I went shopping at the giant food market as dark clouds were gathering in the west. And when I came out, I saw a young autistic boy working with the carts, and he said something excitedly that I didn't understand. So I asked him to repeat it, and he said, "There's a storm coming." And you could feel the exhilaration that was going through him. Storms sweep over us and elevate our awareness above our mundane activities. They completely change our focus and remind us that we are not the final arbiter. We are not in full control. When I was a young lad, the storms were in control. I was at the foot of the White Mountains in New Hampshire in a sleeping bag in the middle of a field, and the rains came and filled the bottom of my sleeping bag. My feet can still feel the cold water that surrounded them. The storms were in control again in the 1950s when I was out in my tent in a hurricane, and I spent the night mopping up the tent floor with my sleeping bag. They were in control again when I went skiing in Vermont, and the temperatures plummeted to minus 40 degrees, and they closed the mountain. Storms also filled the streams and creeks near my boyhood home in Connecticut, to the point that they would overflow and my brother and I would just jump in them and ride the current for all they were worth. When that cold water surrounded my feet in my sleeping bag, I had just completed a 5-day hike on the Appalachian Trail in the White Mountains. And it was that hike that led me to think of through hiking the entire Appalachian Trail 2 years later when I was 14. It didn't happen then. It took 60 years for it to come to pass. In 2016, at age 74, I began hiking from Georgia to Maine with my 8-year-old golden retriever at my side, Theo. Halfway, I turned 75 and became the 5th person to complete the entire Appalachian Trail at that age or older. The Appalachian Trail goes over Mount Washington. Mount Washington rises into a confluence of weather systems that are very violent and can be very unpredictable. In 1934, the highest wind speed on surface Earth was measured atop Mount Washington at 231 miles per hour. When I approached Mount Washington, I came upon a sign. It said, "Stop. The area ahead has the worst weather in America. People have died there from exposure, even in the summer. Turn back now if the weather is bad." So we know weather can be very dangerous, it can be fatal, but as it was for my autistic friend, it can also be exhilarating. The most exhilarating weather I experienced on my thru hike of the Appalachian Trail in 2016 came on August 31st, when I was joined with my son Christopher and 2 of his boys, Thomas and Isaac, for a 27-mile stretch of the trail through the White Mountains. We were up at 8 o'clock and climbing. By 11:30, I was on Franconia Ridge and enjoying the views that had been with me and lived inside of my mind ever since I was a child. I was so glad to be there, and it seemed Mother Nature was thrilled to have me there. She put on the most incredible weather show that was just exhilarating to the extreme. High winds kept whipping across clouds in front of you and then to the other direction. In the distance, for one moment, you could see the clouds just rising up in brilliant sunlight, and then in the next moment, they were gone. Cold mist stung our cheeks, and the wind was howling. Thea was at my side. I leaned into the wind, and something inside came uncorked. I howled back at Mother Nature with everything I could deliver. And it was just an amazing encounter that I relished. For a brief moment, there was a magnificent connection. Theo and I were touching the heart and core of what our adventure was all about. It was as if I was seeing the Creator face to face, and perhaps wrestling with him like Jacob in a moment of just wonderful abandon and acceptance. And for me, I felt so free. I have never in my life felt so free.